All right, this is pretty exciting for me. We've got U.S. to Bangladesh round trip here, and welcome to Zine.
Thank you, Mark. It's good to be here.
No, it's great to have you. Shout out to Ethan Mayers for putting us together, and you got a great story. And I think the first place to start would be briefly. Don't do the whole story because then we won't have anything else to talk about. But briefly, tell us a little bit about yourself and where you are exactly now, and then we'll go from there.
I'm Tazeen. I'm the co-founder of Amar Lab, which is a health mobility startup working in Bangladesh. I was born in Bangladesh, but I moved to the US when I was 18, and then went to school over there, worked for Microsoft in Seattle for about a decade. And in 2016, I moved back to Bangladesh and have been working here on various ventures since then.
And you have family with you back there?
Yes, I have my family here with me. I have a wonderful wife and a 4-year-old, which keeps me really busy.
As it should be, and you should enjoy every moment, you know?
Oh, I do.
Because it's the best thing ever. So, a boy or girl?
Boy.
Yeah. All right. Well, that'll definitely keep you busy. They keep you busy in different ways, the boys or the girls. So that's awesome. You know, your education was interesting. It was computer science, and maybe something that people don't know much about, and it's human-computer interaction, which I find fascinating, and probably maybe the whole ballgame, really, at the end of the day. So before we delve deeper, and before we share about your mom, even, when did you discover your why, if you will?
I think for me, it started at a very young age. Couple of things. My dad has always been into community service. And then I went to a missionary school here, which was run by missionaries from the US. So they had this sense of community service. So together with that, from a very early age, I was always involved in all sort of volunteering activities. I was a Boy Scout. I was working for different clubs and organizations in the school. So all those together, from the very early age, I was into helping others and then giving back to the community. But don't know exactly what that moment was when I found my why.
It probably is, and I think that's a great example of learning early how important it is to give back, but also getting the feeling, because it's a real good feeling when you do it that you can't sometimes describe. So I would say that's a great answer, and personal experience, around giving back. Usually, a lot of times, especially around health and well-being, comes from something that motivated us in our personal experience. And you shared this with me, and I thought it was really pointed, and made a difference. So if you're okay to do so, can you share about how your mom's health influenced you?
Absolutely. I think for me, as I say, I've been involved in community service for a long time. And even when I started at Microsoft, I was helping with technology in terms of giving back. I was helping set up computer centers in rural Bangladesh. I was sponsoring some children all over the world. But back in 2007, my mom got diagnosed with advanced stage of cancer. And it was a life-altering event for me and our entire family, because she was given only 2 years to live, which was, she was only 47 at that time. So we all got very shaken to that. But what was interesting is when we went through the treatment, we realized that this cancer could have been detected way early if she was just doing a simple, regular annual checkup, which in Bangladesh, there was no access to. And that got me very interested in healthcare. And I started talking to some local organizations here in Bangladesh. I was still in Seattle at that time. And finally, found one that would help me set up a health clinic in the slums of Bangladesh, focusing on giving access to doctors, medication, diagnostics. And that pretty much started my whole kind of life's work, I would say, the latter part on healthcare. And it has helped almost 500,000 people so far.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing how things happen in our lives that whether you call it fate or you call it whatever you call it, move us towards maybe that's where we were supposed to go and make a difference. And if I go back to Microsoft for a second, you had told me it was like a change the world or go home type of so you did. You went home. And tell us though about how, and you started a little bit there, tell us about how the work at 10 years at Microsoft, which by the way included you leading the largest diversity ERG that they had there. How did that get you to go back to Bangladesh and impact what you did at Microsoft to bring back to Bangladesh?
Microsoft had a huge influence on even my work right now, even from the very beginning. In fact, I was there only to do an internship, and I got exposed to the wonderful giving campaign, which happens there in every October. All the employees donate to the different charities. And the year I left Microsoft, I think that 1 month, just employees raised $120 million. It is absolutely amazing. It sounds like a different organization at that time. Everyone's like in this kind of moment of giving back. So that had a huge impact on me. With that, there were a couple of other factors. I think my entire time at Microsoft, I was focused on product innovation. I was part of building many version 1 products and services. So V1 means the first time Microsoft is releasing a product like that. So I've been very lucky to do that. So that initially started this thought about how to solve problem from people's perspective, which is kind of goes back to the root of human-computer interaction. There's thinking about people and their perspective, having empathy while we design products. So that kind of led to my work later on how do we build healthcare for people. And along with that, I think the product innovation experience at Microsoft, the giving campaign, and also the diversity work. And when I joined at Microsoft, there were a lot of Asian employees over there, but there was no concept of ERGs at that time. We had some employee networks, different countries and location-based. And one fine morning in May, some of us decided we want to celebrate Asian Heritage Month at Microsoft. We asked one of the cafe managers, hey, can we do some kind of cultural activities here, sell some local food or ethnic food, and then donate that to a charity. So it started like that. Next year, along with that, more countries joined. And then there was the Chinese earthquake. We raised a lot of money for them. The year after it was the earthquake in Nepal, we raised funds for that. And it became more of a culture. Later on, we did a big Asian leadership conference that was attended by almost 4,000 employees. Wow. And finally, that led to the creation of Asian ERG. And I was very, very lucky to be the first chair for the first 2 years. And it is a huge organization, 18,000 members. And we got to do a lot of work focusing on diversity at Microsoft. So all these things together, I think, really created the framework for me to kind of think about leaving Microsoft. In fact, I talked about the employee giving campaign, but there is also this other part. There's a lot of encouragement and inspiration of starting your own nonprofit at Microsoft. There are quite a few big nonprofits that started from there. Room to Read, one of my favorite, John Wood, he was a Microsoft alumni, and he actually wrote a book called Leaving Microsoft to Change the World. And he was very inspiring. So they would have this Integral Fellows Forum every year where they invite alumni who have gone to the different parts of the world and started their own nonprofits. And that got me thinking about like, how can I do the same? And that's what I did. Just took me 10 years.
Well, 10 years in a bigger perspective is not that long. It's long, but it's not that long. And you raised two great points. Is diversity does make a difference for in all sorts of ways, and it's almost common sense. It's ridiculous that it shouldn't be common sense that diversity makes a difference. The other part is, and it's kind of what Fifth Element's premise is. Business can do way better by doing good at the same time.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's been proven time. It's taken us decades to figure it out, maybe, but it's and the other thing I've always learned from leaders is that leaders find that their biggest legacy is when people working for them or an assistant coach for a coach in a sports team, whatever it may be, advances in their career and makes a difference out there. That's the biggest legacy, in the same way that our kids are our legacy as well. So that's great how you describe that. And I want to go back to when you were talking about the ventures that you're in, and you saw that there needed to be equal access, equal opportunity, especially in healthcare, especially because what you saw with your mom. And so that seemed to be, a theme in your journey here of that. And for healthcare, for education, and even for agriculture, healthy living. Tell us a little bit about, Amar Lab, some of the ventures you've done, especially Amar Lab, but also Spreehi and Neo Farmers, and how they came to be and what's happening with them now.
So when I moved back, initially it was only the nonprofit that was in my mind. I came back, I started working on that. We set up healthcare clinics. We were kind of serving about 200,000 families with their healthcare needs. But as I started, and before that, I used to come here every December during Christmas break. I'd be here doing the field research, working with the team, and then rest of the time it'd be remote. But once I moved back, I got exposed to a wide array of problems in healthcare and healthy living and wellness and all of that. And I realized that it's not a problem only for the underserved communities, like everyone was vulnerable. So how can we do that? So we started thinking about, okay, here is Spreehi, it's a nonprofit, it's helping the underserved communities, but how can we serve others? And one area we identified was diagnostics, going back to the root of how my mother did not do the test because it's so difficult. Even it's not just actually Bangladesh, I was there this summer in Texas and I had the similar experience over there. Diagnostics is still stuck in late century because you have to, you can order a Thai food at 3 a.m, but you cannot get a life-saving test whenever you want. You still have to do it by their terms. You have to go there, wait, give the sample. Sometimes you're fasting. So from there, the idea came along, why don't we do it just like food delivery? We go to someone's place or wherever they are, at the park or the home or office, pick up, get their blood sample, take it to the lab of their choice and bring the report back. And that's how Amar Lab was born. So the idea is making health diagnostics easy for you. And as I was working on these things, again, as I say, healthy living consisted of many things. I became a dad. My friends, they also became dads. And one of the things we were discussing were how can we provide good food for our children? Because there was a lot of inconsistency. There was a lot of bad food out there. So we started thinking about why don't we do something for our kids? And later on, we realized there were a lot of needs from our friends and families and other people who were interested. So we ended up starting another agriculture startup called Neo Farmers, which focuses on healthy food, organic food, and natural food. And that's been doing well. And other than these three where I'm mostly involved, I also started a thing called Uro Venture Studio. This is my own solo thing where I could collaborate with leaders who care. So those who are like-minded, wanted to do something interesting, wanted to do something that has a big social impact. I started working with a Virginia-based organization called ThinkWell, which works on global health. And they are working with the largest private clinic chain in Bangladesh called Surya Hashi Network, which is a project funded by the USAID. And I've been working with them for past 1 year, figuring out how do we make this clinic sustainable, how do we bring innovation, and all sort of things like that. So this has kind of given me that platform to work on multiple, small projects. Another project we did during when COVID just started, there were a lot of kind of day laborers who lost their jobs, and there was a shortage of food and other daily necessities. So we set up, along with a couple other folks, a website called Cholo Shobai, which means like let's go together in English. So we use that to do crowdfunding for COVID relief, and the 30 organizations that use this and then to raise funds. So these kind of are the projects that I do under the Uro umbrella, but those are kind of some of the ventures that keeps me busy.
I was going to say, so multitasking is not one of your skill sets, obviously. It's and I got to ask on that, actually, multitasking. So serious question, really. Some people, I mean, you could take any one of those and it'd be a full-time job without a doubt. How do you manage to be effective? And I'm assuming that involves, partners, talent, etc. How do you manage to be effective to get those moving forward and making a difference?
I think over the years, this is something I have learned. First of all, I had a mentor who once said, in a session, marry up. And we were thinking about why is he talking about marrying up in a career counseling? And his idea was by marrying up, I mean surround yourself with people who are better than you. So for me, that has always been the case, getting people who are really amazing at what they do, and so that I can have great teams and I get so much energy from them, and that way I can kind of do all these things. But over the years, one of the other things I've realized, sometimes these are interesting projects and they take a lot of time, but sometimes it taxes you on your personal time and your family and everything. And to me, family became a very, very important kind of aspect of my life for the last few years, especially ever since my son was born. So I started kind of creating compartments of how I see my time. I have one quadrant of my personal time, my spiritual and mental well-being, and then a part where it's about work and then having the finances, and then one part is on my investments for future, and the fourth one is giving back so to the community. So my calendar is usually, I'm very calendar driven, and everything is over there. I can see okay, anytime I'm spending more time in one of the quadrants, it's kind of like a flag. Oh, I need to kind of get back to my schedule and make sure that I'm firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, well, I find that interesting. First of all, it certainly sounds like you did literally marry up, so good job there. And
Okay.
on that, but I find it interesting. First of all, more people are leaning towards, it's not just about a job and working, and it's not just about the time you spend on it. It's the quality that is spent, even with family. And a funny thing happens, which isn't really funny, is it seems that you're more progressive, more successful by doing it that way than if you just concentrate on one and spend all the full time on that. You get things done in the time that you're allocating to do. Is that not right?
Yep, absolutely. I think this is kind of a misconception sometimes I see in many leaders, who are kind of out of balance, and at the end of the day, it doesn't help their product, it doesn't help their service, it doesn't help their family. Probably you can have some short-term gains, but in the long term, you gotta have that balance.
Yeah, I found that even in sports, when even a pro athlete has to, if they're playing, soccer or football, and as a break, even if they're as a break, they do another sport. It helps them in their prime sport, and
Yeah, yeah.
you get ideas, you get this, you get refreshed, you get things of that nature, and you're almost forced to marry up in the sense of getting teams to support it rather than thinking you got to do it all by myself, or you try to do it all by yourself. So I think that's a brilliant recommendation to leaders, and especially to up and coming leaders, about how do they plan their journey. I did want to ask you also, it's taken, like we said before, decades for leaders to realize that business can be better by doing good. And with COVID and technology is moving faster than fast still. And social justice, racial, there's a lot of things going on that Mother Nature is not really a happy camper right now. And so did you find in your part of the world that there wasn't, maybe like you're talking about, an awakening of what's really important?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think I mean, COVID has done a lot of damage, but one thing I am very honestly to be grateful for is like that awakening. I think like especially being kind of raised in the US, where it's always about productivity, and then even moving here, like everyone's trying to follow the US standards of like being productive and all of that. Like COVID was a wake up call when we realized that you cannot live or work in a silo. Like you need to think of the world. You need to have this holistic thinking. You need to have a systems thinking, and you can have an impact not just like on the employees or customers, but also like you know think about communities. You have to think about the earth as a whole. Even how much progress we have made in terms of like vaccines and kind of dealing with COVID is because everyone came together. And I hope like when COVID goes away, we still do this thing. And another like a couple of other things that I see in leaders also is like more and more are kind of breaking out of this concept of I'm doing a company, it's only about like financial gain, it's only about shareholder value. I see more and more leaders being like that human side of them, prioritizing the physical, mental well-being of employees. I follow this leader from Seattle, Dan Price, who have cut down his salary and made everyone's salary, the minimum salary is 70,000 in his company for everyone. Right. So that is a great step forward. Another thing I see even at Microsoft, for example, what Satya Nadella did about like leading with empathy, where it is not about building just great products, but making your employees happy, making others happy. So those are the things I'm seeing like people are like focusing on that, which is a very good thing.
Yeah, no, I well said, and I think leaders are finding out like, holy cow, this is actually better for business too. So what we call an omni win. What an omni win at the end of the day. Who would have thought, type of thing. Last question on this part. Around the quarter, I think it was March 2021. I had a client talking to me about how he felt about 2020, and he said 2020 was it was a year that flew by slowly. And I thought, that's one of those sweet and sour oxymoron type of statements, but I kind of get it. And then he was saying, but 2021, it seems to be zooming by, and it did kind of zoom by. So with that, my question is, what are you most grateful for based on what's happened, and what are you most hopeful for?
I think excuse me, having COVID twice, I'm very grateful for kind of staying alive and that my family are like they're healthy and safe. Right. But I'm also very grateful for everyone who has been part of this kind of journey, or like our fight with COVID. Like there's the researchers who are working on the vaccine, the frontline workers. I am part of multiple healthcare organizations. Like we talked about our lab, our medical technologists are going to COVID patients' houses every single day collecting samples. It's a very, very crucial job. They're very high risk, but they do it. And I cannot be like, grateful enough for the work everyone has been doing. So that gives me a lot of like, hope with where we have come. And in terms of like being hopeful, I just hope this awakening continues. We keep working together, and we also like, hopefully like, stay focused on mental well-being, which again, like now is a good topic that is upfront. People are talking about it because for many years, especially at work, it has been a taboo. You cannot talk about mental wellness. It's always about like I'm sick physically, not like, emotionally or mentally. So I hope that happens more. We talk more about these things.
Yeah, well said. And yeah, we're expanding our whole well-being practice too because of it. It's critical, and it should have there should be no sense of stigma or you're not macho or whatever the scenario is, or you're going to get in trouble by having mental health. Hey, brilliant conversation. You're doing, you truly are making a difference. And I'm just so glad to meet you. And you're definitely a leader who cares. I'll give you that. And
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And so thanks for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.